All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my second installment of my cooking video series on this channel. This week, for Friday, July 10th, 2020, I will be doing a Indian take on scrambled eggs. And really, once you see this recipe, you're probably not going to want to make scrambled eggs any other way. This makes such a tasty version of scrambled eggs, and it's super simple. You probably have most of the ingredients at home anyways, so it's really easy to do. It takes about 10-15 minutes to get done, and you're going to want to do it with a lot of eggs. So if you're making this, make it for maybe a couple of people, or if you're like me, you'll just eat the whole thing yourself. Getting started, we will start with all the ingredients you need. You need, again, 10 to 12 eggs, so I just got a dozen here. I'm just going to use the whole pack. You also need some coriander. You need a yellow onion, some oil, cayenne pepper, which is in this oregano container there, and then just some salt and pepper. And finally, what brings it all together is the tomatoes. So here I just have a small can of crushed tomatoes. You can also use any other tomatoes you have if you want to crush them yourself, but you need that to be quite a bit of tomato liquid for them. So if you're going to be using 12 eggs, that's why you need 12 eggs, is because you're going to want to use this entire can of tomatoes. So that's all you really need. Now let's get started with the prep. So getting started, you just need to cut up your yellow onion. Now we're definitely not going to need this whole onion. I'd probably use half of an onion this size. It's about medium-sized yellow onion here. So we're just going to chop it into kind of coarse bits. I'll show you after I'm done cutting. Oh my God. Oh, these onions. So here you go. This is what the coarse chop looks like. Some of the bits are a bit bigger than others, so kind of chop those up into smaller bits. But what you're looking for is kind of like that size. Pretty easy. Onions, done. Now it's on to the coriander. Just take a kind of a bunch of coriander. Stems are fine as well. Just take it off like about that much. We're gonna give this a rinse, and then we're gonna chop it up very coarsely again. All right, so we got our coriander here. I'm just gonna roll it up into a little ball here, and then just coarsely chop it up again. So there you are with the coriander. Again, just a coarse chop going on there. Nothing too crazy. And now I just need to open up the can of tomatoes, and we're really done with all the prep at this point. All right, prep done. Got our onions, coriander, tomatoes, and all our spices. Now we'll move over to the stove to get on with the cooking process. All right, we're back over by the stove now. I had to switch over to my camera microphone here just because I didn't really want to put my microphone close to boiling hot oil. But here we have my biggest pan I have is a wok actually, so that's just what I'm using. You can use any pan, it really doesn't matter. And with the oil, you really want to put a ton of oil in here. Don't go easy on the oil there. Just fill your pan with a layer of oil on the bottom of your pan there. And I'm just getting it a little bit hot, so it's just past medium here on the stove. And we'll just let that heat up, and then I'll start throwing in the eggs. All right, so the pan isn't super hot, but I got a lot of eggs to throw in, so I'm just gonna start cracking them in. It really doesn't matter how hot the pan is because you're gonna be cooking these for quite a while anyways. While you're doing this, you can also throw in your onions just to get them started. They'll take a little while. If you really want to soften them up, you'll throw them in ahead of time and kind of fry them up a bit. That's really the best way, but I kind of forgot to put them in, so we're putting them in with the eggs. All right, so all the eggs are in and the onions as well. Now I'm just going to give this a quick stir. I'm just using a spatula. It's the easiest way to keep the eggs from sticking to the bottom of your pan, and you want to break up all the eggs on the bottom here just to get them all mixed up with the onions. And you don't want to cook this too quickly. You're not trying to like fry the eggs or brown them or anything. This is just a slow and steady cooking of the eggs here because you're going to have to add in the tomatoes as well. You want to give time for the onions to soften up and whatnot. So it's a pretty slow cooking dish with this onions. As you're cooking, you'll see the bits of egg kind of start to come together there. That's a good sign. We're getting close to being able to add in the tomatoes. Just keep breaking up those big pieces of eggs because you want it to be a scrambled egg consistency. All right, now it's all pretty much come together at this point. So now what you want to do is dump in your tomatoes. So now you've dumped in your tomatoes. This is what really gives the scrambled eggs its great color. It's a little tomato saucy, which is unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen a bit more kind of texture to the tomatoes, but I guess I chose the wrong can of crushed tomatoes. I should have gone with one that had a little bit more chunks to it, but that's okay. It'll all still be good. Now, depending on what kind of tomatoes you use, you might have to boil off a lot of water. If you're using regular tomatoes, they'll probably have a lot of water in them, so you'll end up with a watery dish. So again, cook it slowly so you can give time for the water to boil off. But this tomato can I used here doesn't seem to be too watery, so I shouldn't have that issue. Again, just keep stirring with your spatula, breaking off the bits that are a bit bigger into smaller scrambles there. And just keep it moving so it doesn't kind of brown or anything like that. That's not what you're going for in terms of texture. Now, really at this point, you're just waiting to kind of boil off more of that liquid. What you also want to add in here is now time for all of your spices. So now we're just going to start dumping in. So a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, just grind that all in there. And then depending on how hot you want, this is just some cayenne pepper. If you want it to be hotter, add more or add a hotter chili powder there, but I don't really want it too hot. So now you've added in your 3 spices. Just keep mixing along here and boiling off that water. All right, and now that it's pretty much done, you can lower the temperature a bit and finally throw in your coriander. So here I got my coriander, just dump that all in. You don't want to add it in too early, otherwise it'll get all kind of gross. So just add it in right at the end, and then once you've added it in, just cut the heat and let it cook on the residual heat of the pan and the element you're cooking on. Now at this point, most of the liquid has been cooked off there, which is great. You don't want them to be kind of watery. That's really gross in terms of scrambled eggs. So I'm just gonna keep letting the water steam off here. I'm actually gonna turn the heat on again just to get the residual moisture out because it still is a little bit wet. All right, we are done. So all the liquids pretty much come off here. You want it to still be a little bit moist, but not like super wet overall. Now let's cut the heat and put it on a plate and we will do tasting. All right, here we are, all done. Put it into a bowl here. And doesn't that look so good, just with the nice color on it? Way better than just a traditional scrambled egg there. So much more color, texture, and now flavor as well. It's one recommendation people had for me was to put it to the test and see how it tastes live on camera. So here we go with the taste. It smells absolutely delicious. It has this really nice coriander smell. Now obviously this isn't going to be for everyone because some people don't like coriander, but this has a really nice acidic tomatoiness to it with the coriander as well. So let's see how this tastes. Yeah, honestly, after making these, you're really not going to want to go back to traditional scrambled eggs. This just has such a nice, again, acidic tomatoiness to it with a little sweetness from the onions and that really nice coriander flavor. I'm a fan of coriander, obviously, so I really like the coriander flavor to it, but really nice. And it does have kind of a kick from that cayenne pepper as well, but definitely recommend trying this out. Super simple and easy to make in the kitchen with stuff you probably already have lying around anyways. So I hope you enjoyed this review of my Indian scrambled eggs. Please let me know if you've tried this at home, what you thought, and what you'd like to see me cook in future videos, or what you'd like to see me review on this channel as well. And I will see you next week for another review. Thank you.